Hey everybody, welcome back to Scatter's Homestead. Today we'll be working inside, and what we will be doing is we are going to be looking at some of my plants. I've been doing some propagating and I've been changing the soil in some of my pots. I've been adding or putting plants into bigger pots, and so we just want to take a look through the pots, see how they're doing, and then we also want to look at those that have been propagating. I've had them out for quite a few weeks now already, trying to get roots on them. So I'm just going to take you along with me, and you're going to see what I've all been doing with my plants in my house. So the first plant that I want to show you is the Monstera. This is the newest plant that I have in our home. And basically when it came to me, it was in a smaller pot. It was much smaller, about half the size as this. And it was very root bound. And so basically what I had to do was I needed to take it out of that pot and I needed to give the roots more space. But another thing that was happening with this plant was it was growing upward. And with that, it was growing a lot of air roots. And so if you don't know what an air root is, I'm just going to look, because I did notice that we did have more. Yeah. So if you look right here, you can see right there, that is an air root. Just want to give you a closer look of what an air root looks like. This would be it right here. And so what I needed to do was I needed to take all those air roots, and it's very simple. All you need to do is you just need to get those air roots into the ground, and they'll react like any other root on the plant. So then what I would do is I would snip right underneath the air root, and then I would take that and I just put it right into the ground. And when you do that, it just acts like any other root, and it just gets into the ground, it roots itself in there, and then the plant can get nutrition. And so I did that with a bunch of them. I am curious whether it will work well or if it won't. This is actually my first time working with a Monstera, and so I'm just using like typical plant wisdom, I don't know, from my experience. But I did notice there was some yellowing on some of the leaves. So it could be due to stress of just the transplant and some of that extra work that I did, or it could be that it's failing. But it's been a couple of weeks, and so I would think I'd be seeing a lot more damage on the plant if that was seriously the case. So I guess time will just tell. But this is my Monstera. It's doing. This plant right here that you're looking at is the fiddle leaf. And what I did just 2 weeks ago was I put it in a larger pot. I probably doubled the size of the pot. And so I've just been keeping an eye on it to see if it is going to rebel on me. I found that this plant is very, very fussy. It needs to have the right location or it is not going to do well. And so this plant for the first year was unhappy with me, and the leaves wouldn't grow large. They were just small little leaves. And there was brown spots coming on the leaves. And I found out that it just didn't like its location. There was a vent blowing on it, and so it was causing it to constantly move and shake, and it didn't like that at all. So I moved it to this location, and it has been thriving ever since. It's probably doubled in size. And so now what I did was I just changed the size of the pot, added new soil, and it was very simple. You just take the plant itself, you pull it out of the pot, and then you start adding new soil to the new pot, and then you just place the whole entire thing in there and you surround it with new soil. You don't want to try and disrupt the roots at all and rip it apart or anything like that. You just want to keep it in its state, and then you want to just allow it to move into the new soil on its own time. So this is my princess plant. I don't know how it's gonna do after we just transplanted it into a bigger pot, but time will only tell. This plant right here is called the variegated pothos plant. It has grown substantially. So we are about, right now, I would say about 1.5 to 2 feet off from the ground. And you can see that I have cut pieces off of the plant because it was touching the ground already and being vacuumed up. So I needed to shorten its length. This plant I have been doing a lot of propagating with over the years. I just did another set, and so we're actually going to take this plant off of the shelf. We're going to move it into the kitchen, and I'm going to be doing some work on it. So that's coming up shortly. But what I wanted to show you was that I've done it before, and so what you can see is we have some short stems in here, and that was from propagating. I just took them from the floor, I snipped up, I put them into some water for propagating, kept them in there for a couple weeks, and slowly but surely there was roots that came out of the stem, and then once you see those roots coming out, you can just plant it right into the soil, and it just does its own thing after that. What you want to make sure you're doing is when you're planting it into the soil, or when you're cutting it, you want to cut just above a nubby like this, because this is where your root is going to come out of. And then you would probably have to remove this leaf right here, just snip it off, remove this leaf, and then you're going to be sticking this into water, and that's all it needs. It just needs some water, and the root is going to come out of that little nub, and then you'll be able to plant it into the soil. So first things first, this is the jug that I used to do the propagating, and I just put the cutting right into the water, and as you can see, there is a root that came right out of that nub. I just wanted to give you a close-up of this so you can see right there. That is the root that's coming out of that nub, and I showed you earlier, it's just a little brown nub that you have there. And that's what you want to see. And so now this plant is ready to go into the soil. So let's do this. So simple thing that you have to do, simple task, is all you're doing is you're just choosing the location of where exactly do you want to put the plant, and how I want the stem to come out. And so you're just going to bore a hole in there, because it's such a simple little stem. You just need to poke your finger in there, and you can just place it right into the pot, and it's done. That's all you need to do, and it will, as long as the soil is wet and you continue watering it, that's all you need, and it will be done. And just so you can get a closer look of what I'm doing, all I'm doing is I'm just sticking my finger right into the soil, creating a little hole for the root to go into. And no, I'm not afraid of getting my fingers dirty. And all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pack the dirt around there so that the stem itself is securely placed in there, and that's it. That's all you have to do. I had another pothos plant. This is not a variegated type. It was a gift from a friend, and so I had done the same thing. As you can see, I have the root right here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a hole right into the soil, and I'm going to place the plant or the stem right in there. I'm securing it, and that's it. That's all you need to do. So I put the plants back into place. You can see this one's just a little more yellow than the original one, so we'll see what happens there. And then I put this plant back. Maybe it needs a little bit of fluffing. Do it gently. You don't want to wreck it. But there you can see, there's that little stem that I put in there. And so we'll just let it grow out. So funny thing is I could have probably done that a long time ago. At least a week ago, I could have moved all of those propagated stems into their actual pots. But if you're anything like me, sometimes procrastination gets the best out of you. And so that's exactly what happened for me, is that I was procrastinating, and it was just time to do it, because my kitchen is full. I am so busy canning and collecting seeds that I don't have a lot of counter space, and these stems were sitting on my windowsill right in my kitchen, and I just need all the space I can get. And so I figured, you know what, that's step number one. It's kind of like one of those steps where it's like, okay, I can't do anything in my kitchen until I have to wash the dishes. It was kind of like that. I needed to clean that up so I could get to the next step and start working on collecting some of my seeds. Okay, so I want to harvest some tomato seeds. I've never done this before, but I have read up a couple things before, and I think it's pretty simple. The method that I'm choosing to use is the fermenting method. They say that it's a little bit more natural. So this is a San Marzan tomato, and they say it's much more natural to go ahead and to ferment the tomato seeds before you actually wash them and dry them and put them away. So all you need to do is you just need to cut open the tomato, and you're grabbing a tomato that is actually completely ripe. You want to make sure that it's like one of your best tomatoes, so that it's just growing itself. That smells amazing. Huh. Very sweet. So yeah, so what you're looking at here is the inside of the tomato, and all you need to do is you just need to pull out all the seeds, and it's okay for you to have to keep the gel on the seeds. So here you get a little bit of a better view, and you just go ahead and you just continue pulling out the seeds. So they say that the fermenting is more of a natural way of doing it, which out in the outdoors, that is what would happen, is that the tomato would fall to the ground and it would rot, and the seeds would just fall into the ground and they would reseed themselves and they would grow again the next year. Going on with what I was going to say, they say that it makes it a lot more cleaner for the seeds as well. If you do it this way, it helps with germination as well, and so it's actually removing the pathogens when it's going through that fermenting cycle. It's removing the pathogens, and then it will remove this gel. So I'm just simply taking it out. Another thing that I learned is that when you're going through the fermenting, what you're going to be doing is you're just going to be putting the seeds into a jar. So you're going to be filling the jar with water, but you only want to fill it up until the seeds are just covered. So it looks like I have collected all the seeds. Yep. And see, so these are the seeds left from the San Marzan tomato, and those I am just going to put right into the jar. And there you have it. So this tomato right here, this is called the the Yellow Boy. This is a tomato that I got from my brother. I'm usually just sticking to the Romas, but he gave me a bunch of plants this spring to plant into my garden, because I ended up losing all of my plants to flooding. And so I had to replant my garden. I have to ask, is anybody nervous that I'm using a knife to scrape all of this stuff out? Oh man. It meant I'd have to get up again, and I would have to get a spoon or something that I could actually take the seeds out. And I'm choosing to just use the knife. And there we go. These are collected, ready for the next step. So these last tomatoes that I have here, these are the Elizabeth Roma tomatoes that were gifted to me as a memory of my grandma. Now with the last ones, I kind of figured all I have to do is actually just squeeze it. I don't even need to go into it with a knife. And I can just get all the seeds out of there like that. How simple is that? But yeah, these are special ones. Definitely I wanted to try and get seeds from. Some of you might be thinking, do you not realize that if some of these are hybrid plants, they will not give you exactly what you want next year? Yes, I've thought of that, but it's definitely worth a try. This is free, it just takes some effort, and it's good practice for me because I have never done it before. I've always wanted to do it, and so I just figured, why not try? And it would just be such a reward to be able to grow the tomatoes. And let's be real, they're gonna be tomatoes either way. They're not gonna come out as plums. They just might not be exactly the same. So I've already added water into every single one of these jars. All you had to do was add water until the seeds were covered. And now what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna mark them. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover each one of these with paper towel. We need to keep them covered that they still have air, but that no insects or anything get into there. So I'm going to put, I can't talk and write at the same time. There. So I just put the name of the tomato right on the paper towel, and then I'm just gonna cover it like this. There. And now this one is ready to go. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put these aside, and for a couple days they'll have to just be put aside out of the sunlight so that they can just rest in the water like this. Then when I see that there's been a layer of mold that's grown over the top, then I know that it's ready, and I'm going to give you the rest of the steps after that, because then we'll just wash them up and get on to the next step. So this is a very exciting process for me. I've never done it before. I'm excited to see what will happen with them. And we'll just have to wait and see. So you'll have to stay tuned, because it's not gonna be happening now on this video, but it will be coming in the next couple of days, so that we will be able to, I'm gonna make sure that we'll be able to see every single step as we go along the process. And then hopefully by the end we will be successful, and next year we'll be able to plant some of these seeds.